in book form, it's a book that came out called The Treacherous Art, but it's on Los Angeles Review of Books, and it's called Brevity and Grief. Brevity, levity, brevity, and grief.
Yeah, you're here.
Brevity and grief. It's on the Latin.
I don't know.
You
get to choose.
So many choices.
Yeah.
I can even send you a email.
So we're about ready to start. He runs a tight ship. I like it.
His eye. Really good.
When Stephen wasn't doing it, it was out of my sugar and I could see why, you know, but yeah, we'll do that. It's fun.
I mean, he's got a really good, professional. Do you like jazz? It's mostly like, I think, we're gonna get something for you to perch on while you read.
It's better for me to share with you.
Okay, I got some.
I got just what the doctor ordered.
So I'll get back to you on this day.
Oh,
Hey, how are you?
I got it. How are you?
as well as can be
Good
expected.
choice of.
How you like
Thanks so much, Eric.
Yeah, sure. So there's this height, and there's this height, and there's a standard folding chair like that. Let's see if this works for you.
Make sure I can get up the stairs.
That'll be good.
Excuse me, you have to lower that.
Yeah.
I thought, do you have copies of Dust here? Or maybe
I
we
do,
could put
yes.
Dust on the
All right. I will.
on the podium with the rest of us.
So try the seat and see if that works for you. Should. Looks like a good height. And then of course I'll adjust the height of the microphone. What do you think?
Yeah, I just got to position myself on it here.
Does that work, or would you rather have a conventional
No,
low
this
seat?
is fine.
Okay, great.
I can lean into the audience. Did you see Patrick there from Green Arcade?
Yeah.
The retired man.
Yeah, and able to come out to a reading. Okay, I think we're. I'll get your copy of Dust. So are you going to read first?
Nope,
No, Michael's going to read first. Okay.
he's the
Are
star.
you going to do a little bit of a introduction of it?
Yeah, I
You'd
should.
be more informed than if I did the introduction.
Hey, I'll do that.
Okay.
I'll do that. I got a myth.
The Golden Book. What became of that? I think I'll.
It's up there on the. There's 4 of them, I think. I'll let literature do the job.
Books can hold it over.
Books can hold their own. I don't know about me,
Paper will tolerate anything.
but we need to get that chair up here for Mike. We should share the thing.
Okay. Hey. First time to sell the copies that I have. Introduce you. And then
Pardon me?
you'll get introduced me, so otherwise I'll get mixed up.
Let's see. Well, why don't you wait a while and then come up? Okay, we need to get a chair for you.
No, I will wait a while.
but I'm just trying to get the order correct. Is that what we're doing still?
You're going to read it first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And I'll introduce you a little bit.
Perfect.
And then, okay.
Okay, great.
So you should have a chair
And
up here
I
while
will just sit down here and you can say whatever you have to say. All right, cool. Okay. Well, now you do. It's no, he wrote the introduction to it, so really considerable. What it is. Okay, it looks like you have water, but here's more.
Yeah, we'll just put a cup there. That'll be good.
What's that?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. All right, as soon as you all grab your seats, we'll get this thing going.
Between the two mics.
Well, I kind of did, you know. But we always that was his personality.
Where's Sandy? Sandy, can you find the Michael's book in my bookcase? And my backpack? Michael's book, because I haven't marked the page I want to read yet. Is that okay? Great. Yes. Okay, great.
You just need yours or mine?
I do need mine, and then so we have my side. Gotta remember what I marked. Oh, you've got your cell phone marked, right?
All right, so we're gonna get that mic a little lower so it's not in front of your face for the camera. And then the audience can tell me if it's still in your line of vision. So we're just gonna do this. Do that. Oops, you'll be fine.
Can lean.
Is that okay? You want a pillow behind your back?
No, I'm fine.
You sure?
No.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna get this off here. All right, so I think we're ready to go, folks. Thank you very much for coming out. Stephen will introduce the reading pretty much, but I'll introduce Stephen to say, this is Stephen Vincent. All right?
Thank you.
Yeah, so all I would end up doing is reading you a blurb off the back of a book and then mangling some aspect of it. So,
Yes, sir, right.
yeah, so we're know and are fond of Stephen as a poet, so we're happy to give us a call to present this book, Sleeping with Sappho. And he has a new
Right.
item there too,
Yes.
called the Golden Book. But
Yes.
he'll regale you about those things. And Michael Wolfe will be reading first, I think, after the introduction from Stephen. And
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
very pleased with what Michael has here. So
So-
I'm getting out of the way now. I'll try not to step on anybody as I go. Okay, thank you all very much.
It's nice to see everybody, as much as I can see. Can we have a good geriatric yawn, everybody? I'm Stephen Vincent, as he said, and I remain so. And I want to introduce our afternoon of Greek materials. And I must say I wasn't familiar with Michael Wolfe, only by reputation. We're roughly the same age and had roughly the same experiences in terms of having a small press in the 70s, influential small presses. I had Mamos Press, and he had Timbuktu. I was fascinated how he ever got to Timbuktu as a name, and then I discovered when we had lunch that he had spent 2 or 3 years in West Africa, and I'd been in West Africa, and anyway, we shared that kind of historical background, thanks to the Peace Corps in my case, and he's got an incredible curiosity and adventure. I don't know how he got there without all of the stuff for malaria and all the other stuff you have to do to protect yourself, but you're still alive, right?
Still vertical.
Still vertical, yes. And anyways, but he lived in Bolinas and had an impressive series of authors that he produced there and was part of that community in the 70s. And then he disappeared, and I didn't know what happened to him, because it seemed like we lost a vital artery in the literary business. Of course, Mamos Press folded, and then I went on to other presses. But in any case, it was a delight to have this re-encounter with somebody who I share a kind of a generational experience with. And then he began reading my Sappho stuff on Facebook, I guess, yeah. And got in touch. And then turned out he had this book of Greek epitaphs, which is, that he translated. And I read them, and I thought, well, on one level, they were hilarious. I mean, these days, people our age are trying to get their archives into libraries. The epitaphs are trying to archive a person's life and to cut letters in stone. And so they're brief, and they're very, they cut to the chase, so to speak, and they're fun. I was thinking of one that I read that made me think of the whole archival process in which this fellow was saying it was a lot of ships went down in the sea, and they had to be buried, these guys, and this guy is grateful because he gets his ship, he lands back up on land near his own home where they can give him a funeral, and so that people didn't have to come a long ways to his funeral and celebrate him and so forth. But anyway, it's a wonderful book, and I'm sure he'll read a great selection from that book. And so, was I supposed to say anything more? Do you have children? Okay, let's figure out where we can sit you down here.
Okay, well, I'm going to figure out where I can stand me up. So
Oh, you want to do it standing? No.
why don't you,
Get out of the way.
well, I wouldn't put it that way. There you go. And are these yours? I'll give them to him when he gets down.
Okay. Thank you. Summer and fall.
Good one.
There's your book.
Thank you.
And here's your spec. I'm going to make a couple of adjustments here to bring this up a little higher, although maybe I don't need to. Am I heard in the back? Oh, great. Well, then it's sufficient. Well, as I'm sitting, maybe I'll just sit myself here. Okay. It's all right.
I think I will angle that a little bit differently.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
take care of it.
Because you have the ear for this machine better than,
It's right now, it's
Better than
trying to
I do.
record that light fixture up there.
great.
I think that's gonna be a little better.
Okay, great. So I am here, good afternoon. I'm Michael Wolfe, and I'm here to help you celebrate Stephen's book, really. And I have one qualification. I know Greek. So, I did once translate 127 of the 1,400 epitaphs or whatever that are collected in the Palatine Anthology, which is a very ancient collection. There are thousands more that never made it into that book, picked up off the ground, some of the really old ones. So, Stephen's book reaches back into the 1630s when we imagine Sappho was born. Pretty sure that's when she was born. And these epitaphs reach back even further. They reach back to a period when the alphabet emerged and people could write at all. And it appears that the first thing they wanted to write were epitaphs. They wanted to celebrate the lives of their dead and place them and date them and possibly name their parents. So these epitaphs started out very simply, in a very straightforward fashion. But the Greeks being the Greeks, they soon made art out of them. And even some of the very early ones are surprisingly comical sometimes, reverential for sure, but in unexpected ways. It's a very interesting tone that they strike, and often the tone is similar to Sappho's tone 100 or so years later, 150 years later. It is not the epic tone of Homer at all. And there's very little lyric poetry in Greek, ancient Greek, not a lot. And of it, the very best is Sappho's. She essentially invented or discovered or first felt the need to and was able to express I, rather than we or they. She would write about herself and her own feelings, her own life, her own situation. Very unusual, and well, not only unusual, she started it. We have lyric poetry in its first instance in the West from Sappho. So to set this tone, because it's important in reading Stephen's book, to set this tone, I'm going to read you a few of these epitaphs, and then I'm going to say a few words about his book because I read it a couple of times in relation to this Greek tradition. The first epitaphs were all anonymous, of course. We don't know who wrote them, but later we do. The chiseled verse, which meant be economical, don't waste a word. This all takes time. So an enforced compression on the poetry, which did it a lot of good. The first one is rather funny, actually. I mean, this humor is all rather dark, but I'm sure you'll get along with me here on this. In these epitaphs, you meet almost a mosaic of Greek society. Everything from kings to beggars to sailors to winos to you name it. And there'll be an epitaph about them, of course, and often a very good one. So this one is about an actor named Philistion. The actor Philistion, soothed men's pain with comedy and laughter. A man of parts, I often died, but never quite like this. So you see, I mean, that's from a little later than Sappho, not much later. So they're already up to their tricks, the Greeks, they're already up to something very independent, individual, unlike what you often find elsewhere. Here's another anonymous one from the 6th century in Athens, and they have the rock for this. Whether you come from here or not, many of them are addressed to people passing by, right? So walking. 6th century BC Athens. Whether you come from here or not, pity Tetikos as you pass, a man of valor cut down in action, robbed of his youth on the battlefield. Mourn him a minute, then get busy doing something good. Epitaph on the grave of Sardanapalus, a famous ruler. What I ate and drank I take with me, along with the delights I learned from lovers, but the blessing of all my possessions I leave behind. I'll read that one last. That's the surprise. Well, here's an acerbic one. After drinking a lot, eating a lot, and speaking badly of everyone. Here I lie, to Mocrian of Rhodes. This is a beautiful one, anonymous, and this is from a famous, this is perched on the hillside where the Battle of Salamis took place in 1480 BC, very famous battle in Greek history. Nobody knows who wrote it, but we know who it's for. It's a man named Sabinus who died in that battle. It was a sea battle. To our towering friendship, I've raised this little stone. Sabinus, I will look for you forever. If things turn out as people say, and you join the dead to drink from the river that helps men forget, please don't drink the drop that makes you forget me. This is a poem that Shelley, Percy Bysshe Shelley, said was the best poem of its size that was still a love poem. And it plays on the word aster. Aster is a common Greek name. It means star, of course. So he's playing on, or she, we don't really know who wrote this. It's attributed to Plato, but Plato didn't write this. Now you lie face up beneath the stars, my star. If only I were the night sky, I would gaze down on you with many eyes. Here's one on a wino. It happens to be a woman. There are many. Wine was a big problem in Greece, you know. So, Maronis the wino, who drained dry every glass, lies in this tomb topped by an attic cup. Deep in the bowels of earth she sheds a tear, not for her husband and children, the ones she drank out of house and home, but rather for the cup, seeing it's empty. Some neighbor wrote that, right? Or had it written. Now, I'm just going to read a few more of these. There are lots of them, you know. This one we're getting into written period. I mean, this is well into written period. Many of these have been written by an identifiable Greek poet. Not the very early ones that I read you, but these two are by women. Sappho was not the only female woman Greek poet. There were many others, and two of the best were around the 3rd century BC, Anaite, A-N-Y-T-E, and Knossos. And Anaite has the distinction of having written more epitaphs than any other woman poet, and than most other poets, period. She really liked this form, and she found a lot of ways to make it work in new ways. I'm going to read you two that she wrote about animals. One's a dolphin, and this is the dolphin speaking in this case. I will never again delight in buoyant seas rocketing up from the depths, neck thrust out of the water, nor circle an oar-locked ship, long lips grinning, pleased to find my own bust carved on the bow. Dark waters dashed me to the land. I lie here on a narrow strip of sand. I made a couplet out of that. The Greeks thought that rhyme was barbarous. They didn't like rhyme at all. If they committed a rhyme, they would figure out some way to get rid of it. But I put it in here because it's a nice way to end, you know, something that a dolphin says. This one is for a horse, also by Anaite. Damas raised this stone for his staunch. This one, the next, it rolls along in a meter, and the next word is always in the next line. There are 4 lines. So I tried to get that. Damis raised the stone for his staunch horse. Damis raised this stone for his staunch horse, after the war god pierced its sorrel chest, and black blood gushed through its thick hide, soaking the earth in its death throes. And Gnosis was consciously in competition with Sappho. And she writes a poem about it, actually. She says, "Stranger, if you sail to Lesbos, where the gorgeous dancers once set Sappho, the Graces' fire." Sorry. "Stranger, if you sail to Lesbos, where gorgeous dancers once set Sappho, the Graces' flower, on fire, tell them the land of Locri too bore one of the muses loved, who was her equal. My name is Gnosis. Go." Right, so she's sending the message, be sure the message gets, takes the message out. If you go to Lesbos, tell them back there where she came from that she's got some serious competition. That's Gnosis. She also had, as you can see, she had a sense of humor, a serious sense of humor. And whereas there are many epitaphs for Aeschylus and Sophocles and Euripides, she wrote an epitaph for a less well-known playwright who satirized tragedies and also won a laurel. That's how they did it, right? Every 4 years, competition, you get a laurel if you win. So Gnosis says, "Laugh out loud as you pass here, stranger. Speak a word of kindness over me." This is Rinthion speaking. "Laugh out loud as you pass here, stranger. Speak a word of kindness over me. I'm Rinthion of Syracuse, one of the muses' lesser songbirds. Satirizing tragedies, I earned a crown of laurel all my own." Okay. Here is one attributed to Sappho. It's a very beautiful poem, 4 lines, and it's about a young woman named Themis, who was likely part of Sappho's school. She ran a school for young women in Mytilene, in the capital of Lesbos. So this dust is Themis, struck down before she could wed. Persephone's dark bridal hall received her. When she died, her girlfriends all sharpened blades and sheared their gorgeous hair. So that brings us to Sappho, and whether that poem's by Sappho or not, we don't know. But it fooled a lot of Greeks for a long time. It was only later philologists that figured out that maybe it was someone in the 4th century trying to draw attention to their collection of epigrams. Sappho, as I said, essentially invented lyric poetry for the West. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. One observer said that she was the first poet not to write from the perspective of the gods. Quite to the contrary, she writes from the perspective of a woman who's often heartbroken or elated, and who is very faithful to the gods, but knows where she stands in relation to them. So in other words, the voice of a single human being is the voice that we get with Sappho, and it's never really happened in Greek before. So, of course, it happens later, and it certainly happens in Roman poetry, Catullus and Ovid and so on, and it certainly happens in a lot of European poetry as well. But we owe her something. So her home was Mytilene. That's on the her city was Mytilene, Lesbos, on the Turkish coast. Her status was socially prominent. She seems to have held a post as the matron of this young woman's school, finishing school, you might say, and her brother also held a post. You weren't a public official unless you were somebody on a Greek island in the 7th century. She was a prolific songwriter. None of her music and none of her songs survived. She is attributed, she's assumed to have invented, it said that she invented 3 different instruments, one of them a kind of plucker for the string, and another a type of lute. So she had some technical capacity, and she was also illiterate. There are pictures of her on coins that were struck in her day, reading. Among her biography is really almost as fragmentary as her work, but there are enough mentions to say that she had a husband, a daughter. Husband died early. 3 brothers, about one of whom she wrote a fabulous poem, a really great poem. He was a trader. The whole family were traders. Wine and olive oil, probably. That was where the money was. She wrote in a dialect, not in the Attic Greek that we all sort of think of as being Greek because that's where the playwrights and so on were, but a dialect that came out of really what we now think of as Turkey today. Lydia was called that. So 2,600 years ago she died. So on the face of it, it's obviously impossible to have slept with Sappho, right? I mean, we can be sure of that. But I think what Stephen's doing here is, well, when I read the book, I said sleeping means dreaming. I'll go with that. A glance at Sappho's pages, I have here an example, but it's all brackets. They'll be on a page of a piece representing a papyrus. There'll be like 8 words and lots of brackets, and the brackets represent breaks. Some of her work was wrapped around mummies in Egypt. A lot of Greek writing wound up on mummies in Egypt because it was very dry. And then it was used for other things. Papyrus got there where it was dry, and then it was used for other things. Her work is extremely fragmentary. It doesn't even start to describe the terrible condition of her work. There's one complete poem. There are 4 or 5 that are pretty complete. I mean, they're very satisfying, but they're breaks. And then there are, and I want to say, I mean, Stephen has composed this poem with using these brackets in a really intriguing way. I mean, he didn't have to, but it gives him, it's like the brackets in his book, and there are many, as there are in Sappho's, give him a space for imaginary or imaginal activity, and the reader as well. Because you got a word here, and you got a bracket, and then you've got a word or 2 here, and as a reader, you're trying to fill it in. You can't help it. It's part of the adventure of reading fragmented literature, and Stephen takes very interesting advantage of it. I'm going to read you a couple of translations of Sappho's fragments, the ones that are not fragmentary but are parts of something larger. So you can get a sense, because another thing that is going on in Stephen's book is that there are certain controlling engines or tools in the book, and one is vocabulary. He's using a level of diction that comes out of this work. And when you hear it, you'll get it. I'm just going to read you a few fragments from Sappho, and then it'll all be up to you. A Dutch poet of the 20th century said in a poem, he said, "I have grown to love Sappho since destruction abridged her texts." Well, how else could you love her? I mean, he's got to take what he can get, right? But okay, so that's not Sappho, that's a Dutch poet. I just thought I'd throw that in there. This is a 4 lines which you will hear echoed in Stephen if he chooses to read that section. I don't know if he will or not. This is a terrific poem and quite well known. It's her hymn to Aphrodite, and it goes in the beginning. Some say that the most beautiful thing upon the black earth is an army of horsemen. Others, an army of infantry. Still others of ships. But I say, it's whatever you love best. This is one that was translated in the 50s by William Carlos Williams, who did not know Greek, but had the good sense to get 3 or 4 scholars from NYU and Columbia and so on to come over to Paterson, New Jersey, and talk to him about it. And he translated what he was very dismissive of academic translation. The ruination of the verse just distressed him. And that's why he translated some of it, to get a little of the feel. This is not a long poem, but it's longer than anything I've read you yet. And it is Sappho. That man is peer of the gods, who face to face sits listening to your sweet speech and lovely laughter. It is this that rouses a tumult in my breast. At the mere sight of you, my voice falters, my tongue is broken. Straightway a delicate fire runs into my limbs, my eyes are blinded, my ears thunder, sweat pours out, a trembling hunts me down. I grow paler than grass and lack little of dying. So, that's not epic poetry, right? I mean, that's somebody letting you know how she feels. And she was the first to ever try that in Greek. Here's a much more, I would say, another poem of loneliness, I would say, but very subtle. The moon, so in Greek that's Selene or Selana. She is a goddess who's waiting when she rises for her lover on the other side of the world. So immediately she's into the moon and the Pleiades have set. So Selene has gone to bed. The 7 sisters have gone to bed. The moon and the Pleiades have set. It is midnight. Time is passing, but I lie in my bed alone. And here's another one, the last one. And as a sweet apple reddens on a high branch at the tip of the topmost bough, the apple pickers missed it. No, they didn't miss it. They couldn't reach it. So, I mean, she's very much her own person here, and that could be applied to many things besides apples. Okay, Stephen, thank you. There is one last thing I'm going to say as I step down, because Stephen said to me, it's kind of Spicerian, kind of Jack Spicer-like. And I wanted to say that for me it was kind of like driving. Have you ever driven a car with your knees for a minute or two? Or half a minute or a second? When you're kind of like doing things and you drive with your knees. You've got control, but it's very light control.
We need to get you a chair up here.
I thought I could sit on that.
On that stool? Yeah. Why don't you do that?
I'll get a chair up there.
Oh,
Do you want a
She's
real
gonna use
soft
the
chair?
stool there.
I
You want
just thought I'd sit on the stool and put it right
Okay,
there.
okay.
I think I can manage that.
Why don't you take that there?
You can take that view.
Oh,
Okay, great.
So are you both going to be able to position this right
Okay,
between the two of you?
but we need to get
Once you sit down and make yourself
the
at home.
books. Can you reach up
Yeah,
to
you
the
just,
books?
pick up, what are you looking for?
My books.
Right
What?
to the right.
Oh, there. That will help.
There you
And then
go. And a copy
I
of
don't need
Dust
this one. I don't need
Oh,
Italy.
you don't want this,
I don't need Italy.
William Murray on Italy? All right. So let's do this.
And then the golden book would be.
Okay, let me get you one of those.
Do you have a copy? Or we'll read from the same book.
of this? Oh,
Do
oh
we-
no, I don't. Can we just share this?
Sharon Sappho would be a pleasure with you. Right there.
You want a glass of water?
Yeah, I might
Or-
at some time. We'll see how my voice goes.
Oops, that's pretty cool. So be a little careful.
Would you like to? Summer.
Is that gonna
You have somebody who
balance
wants to
okay? Maybe it'd be better to put it over here. So you'll
Why
notice
don't we
that
put
the
this one for
54
Steve?
on the page, that's
I'll be
Summer
very
Ryan
careful.
sitting
Yeah.
next to Steve. And Summer has a new book out, which is a real knockout, called Dust. It's a memoir, maybe, an autobiography, maybe. It's really something, and it's getting lots of attention.
I can testify.
Yes. Oh, good.
Fantastic.
The arcade is speaking.
And we're really honored to have her here. And Steve and Summer are old friends, and they're going to be, I don't know, maybe back and forth or some way. I figured it would do this.
Yes.
Can I say a couple of things? I'm going to say a couple of things.
Sure.
Well, I'm very honored to be here. I've read Sleeping with Sappho, and hearing Michael's wonderful testimonial to her and to all the translation he has done gave me a kind of insight into why, because I haven't myself read Sappho in many, many years. Now I'm going to reread her, what there is of her. But in reading this book, I felt so much mystery emanating from it. And I was at times so both transported and mystified. And Michael, you really gave me some insight into those feelings, and thank you.
We don't want you at sea.
We what? We don't,
We
what?
don't want you at sea.
So,
Well, thank you. And thank you for joining me.
thank you.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it would be proper to read Sappho without a female counterpart here.
I appreciate being that female.
And so Sleeping with Sappho, I keep thinking, I keep wondering where I got this title, and I can't remember. It's very strange, but anyway. And I think, in terms of you can decide for yourself, but I think Sleeping with Sappho, these are just voices responding to the idea of sleeping with Sappho, or actually sleeping with Sappho, I don't know. But anyway, it's not literal in some strange sense. But anyway, let me begin. And and we're going to go back and forth. And we haven't done this before, so hopefully it'll come up with some lovely random associations. Okay, let me just have a sip of this water. One woman says, a soldier with a goat. Another says, a soldier with a fox. And I say it is rarely the one you are with, but how you hold new love in your arms. It is difficult not to be confused. I have been defeated by many, less beautiful, Sylvia, who found me out, nor would she sail to Crete. for me nor our other lovers, nor did she offer clear wine or iris. Out on her own, the dark, her shadow faint, I must forget everyone. Why she would not rather see my wanting face, the cut light across the peach in my hand. Rather the fat soldier exiled from Ithaca, routed and scarred purple by Odysseus. May she not return, part my arms, outward, expectant.
$50. In back, take it off carefully. I will resist otherwise.
Allie, you're so good-willed. I'm afraid to touch you. Not jeans, short stitched, white silicone, hot gold zipper, calves swollen, shoestrings untied, dangling, the varnished mirror, pine, tongue and groove, floor, transparent blouse, stripes of pink and magenta. What wraps your waist? White silk, floated gossamer.
$52. Excuse me. 52. Boys, girls, what's the difference?
She has no boys.
Hat, the thin blue band. Over there, green sky, smoking underskirt, the initial X. Black, no blue, a diamond. In the navel, silver sparks.
She wants me, laughing, not a tear in her eye. Sappho, I am more than grateful, charmed. Let me hold your oscillate. Relax, sit down, forget that I owe you and regret your timing. I have to refuse your intelligence and neglect the warmth of your body. There are no laurels for your hair, nor garments for your necklace, nor garnets for your necklace, nor slender squares of gold to lace around your ankles, nor polished abalone shells for your wrist. Only a bitter oil, cheap to soothe your suffering. I have no time to take you to bed. The harsh tarpaulin sheets will abbreviate desire. There's nothing sacred, no place between my legs nor yours.
Excuse me. Josephine rarely gives a thought, turns on her sister, sucks joy from the house, is noted for courting the sky when there is no moon and the dancers remain vague shadows before the stars. Dark, she retreats around small ponds, empty creeks, and dead wells. Field mice barely scuttle, and the dark grasses shrink. Yes, she rises slowly, a ghost, without an iota of memory. What she hears, she swallows, forgets. To avoid her at all costs becomes conviction. I do it now with some ease. Rejection is not my normal lot. Sour plum juice nestled on my tongue. On occasion, one must spit their way to freedom before falling into the arms of new gods.
Against my father in his folded age, his hands tarred purple, his fingers and body so thin, the waves in his silver hair, an emblem to his son, a horse once rode there. The starboard tack to the north, the rippled white sail spangled, off the near coast, the city darkens.
Not for you. I have absolutely nothing to offer. Your eyes drift aimless, the lover absolutely gone, an exile in your body. Terrible as it is, I salute your absence. A belt, the brass buckle, fresh and newly shiny. I sent by a friend to you in the north. Father, I am no longer good with the sails. The wind pushes south, and my true love.
No, don't tell the groom. I will be angry in my own quiet. There is no statuary, no matter the fluted dresses, the combed marble. The music is full of scratches. Nothing trembles. What might be gold, black and silver. In the grove, the groom in tears, once for you. Such large raindrops, so few fingers.
Morning.
She opens the spray of gold She opens the gray gold ascendant pigeons, mourning doves too. Drop gown, drop hand and knee, no stars, black your skin, as white as the flesh of a skinned pear, sliced in half, tilted on the dark saucer. There is not a bent finger not ready to reach. A singer with a terrible voice, the white canvas tambourine.
An unforgivable, bad drummer. No one takes out their sticks.
Do I refuse to acknowledge my age? Why does she tempt me like a young, startled virgin? Misshapen, fallen, muddied, an older, yet so tender swan. Go where you can receive. Her muse has such small hands. Pointed egret feather gloves. Hunters abound looking for them.
Take up the floor, Jack. Rip it board by board. If you are not enough, get a gang. Sylvia is approaching. Nothing equals what she costs. Let her tight waist turning, let her fall down. Let her fall way down.
That's very far. Hey, Geronicus, a divorce, just as you wanted. A contract with no deal breaker, and you got the space you wanted. No longer buckled over, straight up on your legs.
For every other girl on the block, and never again for you. Mr. Bridegroom, never again for you.
Old age, why are you running toward me? I have not come for you. I have not come for you.
The ex-housewife in sharp pink eliminates any comparison to flat milk on a thin saucer. The cat with a pink-tipped tongue sipping too quickly. I now compare thee.
Hello, new bride. Hello, groom. Make yourself at home. I will go and corner the silk sheets.
Welcome back, lover. Welcome. And you too.
I am not some old shellfish. You, Sylvia, can still bang me to pieces.
Wet silk, hot tomato red, slipping.
She is not someone who likes to love, but prefers the melancholy of a thin knife. For some reason, she likes to hurt, the silence in her elbows. If you do not like me, find another bed. Your youth is absolutely expendable.
Pruning the roses, your already gnarled hand.
She parallels the roses. Please don't offer an unwashed hand. Over there, the fake singers, stomping the roses. Not again, jerks. Sappho was reactive. Yeah.
Sylvia, you love me by the hatful. I worship your presence in the high mountains, the cut of spring water through round rock. Eleanor has an ugly dog, the color of mustard grass, her nose constantly wet against Sylvia. Even if it takes a small island far from Crete, she will be banished.
I woke up out of a deep dream. I could not recover you anywhere, Elena.
When did his son pander to Oedipus? The chill on his silver belt buckle, the flattened cut cheekbone, forebodes a dark winter. Crow voice, cut your volume, the bellow in your wings. You want me to say something honest? Maybe I will. Attracted to what is defiled, even though you yearn for beauty and virtue. Honesty will empower the play in your feet. Eyes will open the tongue into pure speech. Sit down and look the opposite way. Close your eyes. Imagine Sappho with wings.
Witness Cynthia and just born Artemis. You know what to do. Stroke the maidens, unfold your garments 2 by 2. The bachelor suffered terribly before courtship, the wineglass, singular, half full and transparent. She held an empty glass by the stem, walked in circles by the oak, the wilted purple vines in the near field. Good things do not always happen to couples.
Brandy, heirloom tomatoes, the juices.
Cynthia and Cato were robbed by friendship. Not enough, never. Ends cupidity, so senseless. She's one of those who can't get enough. Listen to the pain in their lament.
To change the river, toss a pebble. Let me have at her, and the nectarine too. No one will read this ever. Well, not ever. So much of you and I will be forgotten. Bet on it. Broke and sanctimonious is rarely good. Yet wealth and virtue, is it always interesting?
All day long, Amazing, this erection. During the afternoon, it's sometimes more quick, yet whatever it is, elevates us. It is always extraordinary. That ecstasy should overtake and please us. Right in the throat, night or day, the white ball, luminous, spinning. Under morning foot, the rising arch, white, a bead of sperm separated.
Illuminated, then not, the quality of despair. When the sun rose, all rays, we walked into it ablaze.
A short, sustained hello to Julia, bubbling, glorious child. Get going. Your age and wrinkles offer me nothing.
Not as compelling as a harmonica in a riff, silver rather than gold. You broke the strings on my guitar, thin brass shavings everywhere, bad boy dusk to take in your svelte tongue, fluttering.
With love animated under the heart, swelling sorrow. Not I, nor hate, no companions, please. Not I, nor your henchman, Elizabeth. Forget her, guys. Let her fold her clothes to dry in a perfectly small city.
With no hands.
Between whose hands?
Yours?
Singularly, he rejects his each son.
Which woman is not?
Catherine says Theona threw out the jet black ruby ring once given to her by her late father, a black glint on a thin silver crescent blade, transparent olive oil in a porcelain dish, a thin black streak coiled.
Mars gone, and the gray cloud cover, early morning, no sun, together over the pillow. Neighborhood, a brown patch in the bougainvillea, fallen, unable to part, funeral leftovers.
Leda, certainly. Divorce, alimony, booty.
Eleanor.
Ecstasy planter, a root that rips up sidewalks, block-a-dock, crepuscule, gossamer, underwear.
Cancelled.
Refused to come out. Wing spread, the ascent, safe passage. Stephanie again. Tanya. Ah, Tanya.
Mythbreaker, ambrosia, no skill, an absolute natural.
Onyx, her breast cups.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
I'll read a couple from I have a new book out, and I just wanted to share a couple of them.
Shall I get it?
That's a
Is
good
it down
idea.
here?
Yeah.
Which one?
The Golden Book. Selah. Thank you.
I'll just move around here.
It's okay, yeah. I just want to introduce, this is a new book called The Golden Book. And there's probably nothing sapphic about it, but anyway, and if you want to ask questions about how this book emerged, good luck. Anyway, but after you can ask me. The Golden Book is a book that matches photographs of stains on the street and my reflections on those stains. And the Golden Book is actually taken from crosswalks, the yellow crosswalks. Did we lose track? Okay. Is that better? Can people hear me?
I'm working.
Okay. You're working hard, Eric. We thank Eric for all his efforts.
Sorry.
I was trying to say thank you, Eric, for your efforts in putting this reading together. And so the book, I'm very happy with the design, but it matches. There's the photograph, in this case, from a crosswalk, and then there's the poem, The Reflection. And this one, I don't know if you can see it very well, but that's the guy looks like, it looks like somebody golfing. No matter the greatest of golf swings, most are not. No matter how great or precise the long or short driven arc, is not going into the improbable, elusive hole-in-one. The animal greed for such an outcome is constantly the unwanted joke of the day. No matter what we swing, ambition and loss will define one's enduring and lasting composure. I'll just read one more because I think we're going to fill here. This one is the marks, the yellow, they're parallel somewhat, right? Okay. Parallel, one is never alone. The lines are equal but different. One of the two mirrors the back. Asunder with fear, one line trembles, while steadfast the other pursues its course. One is faith and one is not. One is history, one is nightmare. One is solid shape, one is absolutely not. One is shaken to the core, one is smooth, calm, and infinite. Don't ask the dime merchant for a penny, nor the wine merchant for brandy. What is parallel mocks everything. No matter the odd contortion or way, the lines will continue and continue through whatever burst of light or savage bomb. When in doubt, don't. Thank you very much. I don't think we're going anywhere immediately, so if you have any responses, curiosities. But thank you very much, Michael.
I wanted to ask a question to Michael. Michael?
Yes.
So when you look for these epitaphs, are there cemeteries where you find them? Or you mentioned one on a hillside. Are they randomly scattered? Are they...
There is
Just
one
just for
cemetery.
this stream, why don't you sit it there so that we can, so that people out in Brook can hear you both.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
right.
you know, since that's
Could
well,
you-
why don't you both stay up here for a little while?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I was just trying to put him on the
Just go
stool.
around you. Okay.
Go ahead and grab your seat.
Yeah, sure.
And then I'll get out of the way.
Okay.
Take your time.
All right, there we go.
All right. Maximizes the possibility that people will hear you.
So the question was, where are these epitaphs? And they're in book 7 of something called the Greek Anthology. The Greek Anthology has, like, I think 16 books. They're amatory epigrams, love poems, essentially. There are inscriptions. There are a lot of different types of epigrams. The epitaph is sort of the great grandparents of the epigram, and that was first, and it set the stage for the short, pithy statement that we think of as epigrammatic. So these are all collected in various ways. I just used the easiest to get, the Harvard Loeb Classic shelves. They are, you know, like they're all in green, and there are many, many of these books. But it's kind of the long shelf of classic literature, and they're desperately in need of retranslation. But I don't have the time or the skills, really. You need to be a real scholar. I'm not, and eventually, I suppose they'll get this done. But the Greek is on one side, and then the
English translation is on the other, and the translations are really lame. So it gave me, some impetus. Yeah. Yes.
There's no oral tradition in Greek
Oh, absolutely.
poetry.
Oh, absolutely. There is. Yes.
What is it? I have no.
Well, the Homeric cycle
Okay.
is it. There's also Hesiod, right? Who's major, beautiful, long books about the nature of things, really, cosmology almost. It is cosmology, but also about farming and agriculture, is Hesiod, and he's very ancient as well. But there's so those poems were all memorized by singers. They did not exist on paper for probably at least 300 or 400 years, and maybe much more. And each time a singer sang part of it, even in a court or at a wedding or for a family, big dinner or whatever, each time they were sung, there was a certain amount of invention going on. And then as the Greek culture spread and trade, like Sappho's brothers, going to Egypt and going to Italy and olive oil and so on, Greeks were deposited outside of the ring of the sphere where these poems were being sung. They couldn't hear them anymore. That's when, happily, coincidentally, the alphabet emerged about that same time, maybe because they needed bookkeeping, to do the trade, keep track of it. In any case, people who cared about these things began to make the rounds and write down the recitations. And I mean, in the case of Homer, probably just in time. But this was as close to a Bible as the Greeks had. I mean, this was the story of how to behave. It fast became outmoded, but in the 700s, in the 600s, it was still very important.
Stephen, what were you working with in this book, in your book? What fragmentary material did you?
Well, I think what got me going, Aaron Carson knows Greek, and there's the book, what is it called? If Not, Winter. I picked that up, but I think I just have a curious imagination. I look at lines, and other lines come up. And this is Anne Carson's book. And so I know not a word of Greek. I did study with people when I was an undergraduate, Doug Parker, for example, who did lots of translations of the plays, and he would do vernacular versions of the people from Sparta would sound like they were from Arkansas or whatever, he liked to play with it. And I just have this as just, for example, this, when Michael was talking about, how do you pronounce it? Astra, A-S-T-R-E, star.
Astra.
And my mind says, I never thought about it, but disaster is a falling star, right? Anyway, my mind just generates these associations, and so it's like, and I think I get some kind of demonic thrill out of turning things upside down or pulling the weeds up to see what's there.
Right.
And so this sleeping with Sappho is really an act of weeding, I mean other things too, but it's I think that's the I get some kind of thrill out of doing that. I mean, it goes way back. Some people are a little bit outraged that you don't respect the sacred text, and I mean, I'm sure there are Anne Carson readers who are offended. I know one who's a very good friend and a very good poet. How could I do that to them, But I like to play, and maybe it comes out of listening to lots of jazz, the idea of improvising, listening, and playing back, tunes. But anyway, so I don't know if that is helpful, but that's just my crazy.
Well, I think Michael mentioned the title, "Sleeping with Sappho."
Yeah.
And when I first started reading it, that was my go-to sort of reference.
Uh-huh.
Oh, You know, Stephen's sleeping with Sappho, literally. But the way you described it, it's,
I think it's just a bunch of different voices responding to Sappho, whether they're sleeping with her or not, I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of the orchestra of voices that surround the poems. Any other queries? Anyway, I'll be happy to sign books, and we have Michael's Book of Epitaphs, and so we'll turn on the lights and see who's here. Probably a lot of old friends.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Very much. So there are books up here, and I think some books at the stage. So whatever
I'm gonna
works.
figure out how to get down on it. I gotta get my sticks.
Make a bit of a more of a path here.
what's the best?
Okay.
But there's, yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm doing well. Is that what you're
All right.
You are not.
Thank you.
You are not. Come on.
And
You know what?
Michael just told me it was like
I live in
Did you ever notice, I had this friend, he died many years ago, but we worked together. It was very great.
Yeah, very different.
Anyway, his sister's name was Cynthia, and she wrote a book called Sappho.
In some reason, you know,
Remember that book? It was like part of, it was like, you know, lesbian, separatist, you know, 1970. Yeah, and I still occasionally, I'll see a used copy. Sappho was a write-off. The award ended up, we did a poetry series in the early 80s, and the papers still.
I haven't been.
And now we're, but
since.
at that point it was,
Was it on the corner?
no, it was still there, but it wasn't, but the guy who just opened it, he wanted to have books to read. The ward lived on Albion,
That was the area.
right across from Harold North.
Well, there's a Moroccan. Is this the only copy on this side of
I know it's
Yeah, sure. No, he was like a case. But he was an associate with the Beats.